welcome back. We're playing here today. That's right, back at the Wynn. You know, one thing I was thinking about on the way over here is that when you live in Vegas and you play tournaments here, you're really lucky because you have a lot to choose from. So today, for example, I could have played at Bally's because they had a World Series circuit going on over there. They charged a lot of rake for their side events, and it was right next to a Keno lounge and slot machines, so there was a ton of smoke over there. Didn't enjoy playing over there. And the Venetian, I would love to play because I like their tournaments, but I can't film there right now. So that leaves us at the Wynn. So yeah, I've been playing a lot online and I've been putting in a lot of hours. I got that fire in me. I'm ready to play a lot of tournaments. I really feel fired up. I'm getting ready to make my schedule for the World Series. So all of these little dailies that I play kind of in between really help sort of pad the bankroll in between. So yeah, let's get in there and play. I don't want to be too late. It's 30-minute level, so let's do it. Let's play poker. So I keep calling this tournament a daily, but it's actually a weekly tournament held on Fridays at the Wynn. I've never played it before. This is my first time, and as soon as I get my chips, my neighbor starts telling me how it works. What do we start with here?
Start with 20.
20? Okay.
Tournament has crazy rules, though. You can get below 10,000 chips. For $200, you can buy another 20,000 chips.
So now that we know how this tournament works, my very first hand, I'm dealt ace-king offsuit. I open it up to 600 in the hijack, and 3 people come along. The cutoff, button, and big blind all stick in the money. 4 ways, we go to a flop of king, queen, 5, 2 clubs, and a diamond. So great flop for me. Once big blind checks, I just sprinkle out 900 and hope somebody comes along. Cutoff folds, and button throws in the call. Big blind gets out of there, so we're heads up. It comes down the 8 of clubs. Now, normally I would check this over to the button because there's a lot of things that I want to check when the flush completes. This hand in particular, I'm not really worried about anything, and in the field that is a smaller buy-in and where I don't really need to worry so much about being, quote unquote balanced, I could probably just bet this card. But I don't. I stick to my normal route and check it over to the button. He tosses out a bet of 1,500 and we obviously make the call. The river is a 10 of clubs, so that's a pretty interesting one. I could also consider doing something kind of unbalanced here and lead this river just to get value from the flushes that he might now check back. And if he does try to make a crying call with a worse king, it would be a good time to lead. I didn't do that in game though. I just checked it over to him. He snap checked back correctly and showed that he had 6-4 of clubs. So he did indeed turn the flush. River, I got there on him, and we're now up 4,500. All right, the next one we get involved in, under the gun opens to 600. I make the call with pocket 6s and the low jack. 3 other players come along. Once again, big multi-way pot. Comes down 10-8-8 rainbow. Everyone checks around to the cutoff and he checks it back. The turn is a 5 of hearts now, and again, we all check it over to the cutoff and he's not having it this time. He bets 800 now. Big blind folds, under the gun folds, and when it's my turn to act, I still think I can beat a lot of the things that he is betting. I think he would have bet a 10 on the flop. Maybe he could be slow playing an 8, but most of the time I'm going to be good here. So I toss in a call and hijack folds. So just the 2 of us to a river, which is the 7 of diamonds. I check it to him, he snap checks back, and I announce pair, and it is good. So in 4 minutes at this table, I'm up 8K. Okay, you'll notice in these smaller buy-in tournaments that people limp a lot more often and they don't do as much 3-betting pre-flop. So you do tend to see multi-way pots a lot. So if you're looking to study something, I would definitely recommend studying multi-way pots. I personally use simple 3-way, but yeah, we'll save that for another day. Anyway, in this hand, we get another one of those limps from under the gun. He puts in 400. I am on the button with ace queen off, and I'm gonna ISO raise this, so I 4 times his bet and make it 1,600. Small blind though wakes up with something and he makes it 3,200. He does not want me to fold. He wants me in there. Everyone else folds, it's back to me, and he only min raised. I'm in position with the premium, so even though it looks a little bit scary, I make the call. Flop comes out ace high, he bets 5K, I peel one off just to keep in all his bluffs, and the turn is a jack of clubs. So now there's a backdoor flush draw. He goes all in for 5,300. I obviously call, and we see the bad news that we're up against ace king. So he did indeed want us in there. The price I was getting, I couldn't lay this down. We flop an ace, so kind of unlucky in that regard because I could have gotten away from it on most boards besides that one, and we double our neighbor up. Next, I look down at king queen offsuit under the gun and raise it up to 800. The hijack calls off a pretty short stack, and the big blind comes along as well. Three ways, we see a flop of king 9-6, 2 clubs. I see bet 1,000 and hijack bumps it up to 3,000. Big blind gets out of there, and I look at his remaining stack. He has a little over 7K behind, so I'm going to call this flop and keep in all of his bluffs. I think he'll still jam a king on the turn. The turn is a 3 of hearts. Pretty great card for us because it's just a blank and we can get it in against his worst king X or his flush draws. So when I check it over to him, that's what happens. He jams all in for 7,300 total. I snap call and we hold on the 5 of hearts river against king jack offsuit. First hand we get involved in after break, the cutoff opens to 1,500. I have king 10 of hearts in the small blind, and our stack size is a little awkward for me to be 3-betting this, so I just make the call. Big blind gets out of there, and it's heads up to a flop. The dealer puts out king 6, 2 clubs and a spade, so we drill it. I check this flop playing in flow, and he checks it back, surprisingly. The turn is the 5 of spades. This time I'm gonna lead. I'm gonna try to start building a pot with my trip kings. So I put out 3,000 and he snap calls. The river is a 9 of clubs, so it completes the front door flush, which he could have checked back on the flop, but just in case he has a worse king or he has an underpair that doesn't believe me, I'm gonna go for value and then reevaluate if I get raised. So I bet 6,000 and he once again pretty much beats me into the pot, calls 6,000. When I flip over my hand, it's good and we are cruising. I've almost doubled my stack in a little less than 2 hours. Next hand, I open ace-7 of spades under the gun 1 to 1,800. Low jack and button both make the call, and we go 3 ways to the flop, which comes down king, queen, 3, 2 spades. So we flop the nut flush draw, looking pretty good. But against these two opponents in particular, they've been playing pretty straightforward and their sizing has been telling, I should say. So I want to delay c-bet this hand in particular because I think I'll just get more information out of them by checking it over to them and seeing what they do. And if they do happen to check back, I can just bomb turn and get away with one essentially. So that's what I do. I check it over to them and both of them check back. The turn is an offsuit 9. So on the flop, I think they would have both taken a stab with jack 10. Maybe not, but a lot of the time they would, or at least thought about it a little longer than they did. I think I can get a decent amount of hands to fold if I go big on this turn. They're pretty capped at this point, so I'm gonna go for it. I bet 5,500 into 74, and they both pretty much snap fold, so happy with that. 2 hands later, I'm in the hijack with ace-8 offsuit, probably the worst ace that I open in this position, but I'm gonna open it. So I make it 1,800, big blind tosses in the call. Flop comes down 8-5-5, 2 spades. We are just hitting boards and it's pretty fun. Poker's fun when you're hitting boards. Big blind checks it over to me and I'm gonna small bet 1,200. He makes the call. I might even want to cheat this up in the future in fields that are smaller buy-ins with hands like this where I need some protection. But in this scenario, I had been c-betting small a lot and not getting to showdown. So I feel like these guys might be starting to get a little bit sick of my aggression. And I almost wanted to bait him with this tiny c-bet. The turn is a queen of clubs. So 2 flush draws now on the board. He checks it to me. And this time I go for a little bit bigger of a bet. I bet 3,000. So about 45% of the pot. Well, now we're getting put in a little bit of a pickle because our big blind raises to 17,000. I only have like double that in my stack to start the street. Does not feel good. He obviously can have a 5. He could be bluffing me with a spade draw. I mean, I don't really put him on a queen, but if he does get a little nervous about the flush draws and he happened to turn a queen somehow, he could be raising that. The size of this raise looks strong to me. And I didn't really know what to do, you guys. I really was kind of caught in the middle here, right on the fence of just going with this hand or folding and trusting the read that in this particular field, these big raises, they don't happen often. So when they do, you kind of have to give them credit. That's what I ended up doing. I folded, I gave him the credit, and he did not give us a peek. So interesting. Maybe I should check back the turn. That could be results oriented. Not sure. Only a few hands after that, we look down at the beautiful Jack 10 of spades, flick in the open to 1600, and just the big blind comes along. The flop is ace 7 deuce rainbow with 1 spade. The driest of dry flops. I have a backdoor flush draw. I have the range advantage by opening early position against the big blind's call. He's got all kinds of hands, so obviously I'm gonna c-bet. So I bet 1200. My friend in the big blind has been commenting on some hands that I've played, maybe noting some of that aggression that I was talking about earlier, and he just looks like he wants to go after it. Like sometimes you could just look at someone and tell that they have devious thoughts going through their head, and he follows through. He check raises the flop to 3,500. You know what? I don't believe him. I'm just looking at his face. I'm looking at this board texture. I think that yes, he could have ace deuce. He could have ace 7, but a lot of people don't peel 7 deuce from the big blind, even the suited variety. A lot of people even slow play a set on this board. That's not always true, but I have to keep that in mind that he's repping a really, really narrow range of hands to be confidently raising this flop. He knows I'm going to be c-betting at 100%. He knows that I bet small and he can get away with one by raising. So with all of that being said, I decided to peel one off and see what he does on the turn. I'm really gonna force him to go after it if he wants to win this pot. The turn is the 6 of spades. So things are getting interesting. We turn a flush draw. That's one of the cards we're probably gonna be continuing on, depending on what happens. In this case, he bets 6,100, so he's not slowing down. It's a pretty good price, and I know I can most likely get all of his chips if I backdoor into a flush, and he actually has one of the strong hands that he's representing. So I call, and the river is the 3 of spades. We make a flush and we're hoping for him to stick his remaining 17,000 or so in the middle. Instead, he waves the white flag, or what I think him waving the white flag, and checks it. I put the rest in. He doesn't take too long. He snap folds and he claims he had queen 3 of hearts. He didn't claim this right away. He claimed this later because it was a hand that really baffled him. He claimed that he figured that no matter what ace I had, he thought I would fold the turn, which that's never happening. I'm never folding an ace to his check raise on the flop and bet on the turn. He might put me in the blender by the river, but I'm never folding on the turn when I have an ace. And that's because honestly, you guys, I don't think a lot of people check raise ace 10 suited, ace jack suited. I don't think they raise enough top pairs with medium-ish kickers. So if that were the case, if I thought that he raised a lot of those hands, I can give him credit for actually having a lot more value. But in this case, I didn't really think he had it. We lucked out and got there. But honestly, if it was a brick and he checked it to me, I would have ripped it because of all the reasons I stated before. I was really gonna go after this pot no matter what happened. Happy that it worked out the way it did. We were feeling feisty and it worked out. Things cool off for a while after that when the button opens this one to 2,500. I'm in the small blind with king jack offsuit. I make the call and big blind gets out of there. I honestly should probably be 3-betting this, but again, I think people are playing pretty straightforward and I wanted to take hands post flop. So heads up, the flop is ace 10 deuce rainbow. So we have a gutter. The button continues for 3,000 and I don't know what came over me. I would normally raise this up because I have a gutter and I know that the button is going to be c-betting this a lot, but I didn't. I just flick in the call. The turn is an 8 of hearts, bringing it back to our flush draw. I check it over the button. When he bets again for 5K, I snap fold and he shows me he had the goods. He had the 10-8 of clubs. Turn 2 pair. Thought I had an ace, he said. He takes this one down. 15 minutes later, I get a beautiful hand. Finally, I have ace queen of hearts in the hijack and I open it up to 2,200. Small blind and big blind both come along. Big blind has been playing a lot of pots. He's the one that check raised me on that 8-5-5. So I'm ready to battle with him. The flop comes out queen 8-4, 2 clubs and a diamond. When they check it to me, I'm gonna cheat up slightly with my sizing. I go 3K and just the big blind comes along. The turn is the jack of clubs. So a lot of draws get there, 2 pairs, stuff like that. So I'm gonna slow down on this one and try to play a little bit of pot control, especially since this guy has really put me in the cage with his raises on the turn. So I check it back and the river is an 8 of clubs. So all the things got there by the river. If he had any club, if he has any 8, if he has something like 9-10, terrible river for me. I guess I check. And we see we lose to 6 of clubs, 4 of hearts. Call me with bottom pair on the flop, fine. Backdoors his way into a flush, and he wins yet another one off of us. So with that, my stack is just low enough that it's almost back to starting stack. I put down $100 on the table and request an add-on, which is for 10,000 more chips. You only get one add-on per the whole tournament, and this is how it works. You just can request it at any point. If I was under 20K, I could have also put in another $200 to get another 20K stack. Because I'm over 10K, I can't use that option, but I am gonna add on and go from there. So for the next hour, I find a couple of jam spots, but none of them get called, and we basically break even for that hour. Then a new player sits down to my left and opens under the gun to 7K. Blinds have gone way up now, so I am on fumes with my 23K or so in the stack. Folds around to me in the big blind, and I look down at pocket 5. So this is a really strong hand with only less than 8 blinds, so I stick it in. He obviously snap calls. And I see the great news, I'm up against pocket 3. So we just have to hold against a 2-outer or some weird straight run out. And I do. Board runs out clean for me, and I double up to 51K, which isn't too much at this point in the tournament, but it does give me some breathing room. All right, so this next one is kind of a borderline open. I have ace-3 offsuit on the button with something like 17 blinds. If I only had 15, I would rip this. It doesn't play well post-flop, but you have a blocker to somebody having a calling hand behind you, so it's pretty easy shove if you have 15 blinds. When you have 20 blinds, it's borderline whether you play it, you know, you can come in for a raise or a call. With 17, I think I just prefer to shove it. I will get a lot of folds, and it doesn't play well post-flop, as you're about to see. In game, I raised it to 6K. Not a fan of this. Don't try this at home. Small blind comes along, big blind gets out of there. So heads up to a flop, it comes down king 8-5 rainbow. Not much going on for me. For some reason, I decided to take a stab. I don't necessarily think this is terrible, but I don't know. It's just one of those whatever spots. But I only bet 3,000. Which is not accomplishing much. In my head, I was calculating the pot, and then I was like, okay, go 33%, and then I just put out 3K. The number 3 was in my mind. I know that sounds crazy, but the number 3 was in my mind. I put out 3K instead of 6. First blunder of the hand. My opponent calls in the small blind. No surprise, he's getting an insane price with whatever he has. And the turn is an offsuit 4. I guess I was like, oh, I picked up a gutter to the wheel. I'm just gonna try to blast this guy off of whatever floats he had. So I bet 12K on this turn, and he is not going anywhere. If I was him, I would be like, I would raise an eyebrow at my line as well. Anyway, he calls. The river is another king. And this is something interesting happens here. My opponent leads for 10K into a pot of 47. Very strange, but I can't do anything. Obviously, I have ace high. So I just muck it, shake my head. I finally picked up chips and doubled, and then I just gave them away in this hand. So don't know what was going on in my brain at this point. Not happy with that hand, obviously. A couple of points where I could have made different decisions and played it better. The most important one being just shove pre-flop. We all make mistakes. Moving on to the next hand, hoping that I can find a spot to double once again. So with the blinds as big as they are, 2 full orbits of folding takes a huge dent out of my stack. Now I'm down to a little more than 6 blinds, just hoping for a spot. And this is the time it comes. Under the gun 1, limps for 3,000. The button makes it 10K, and I have ace queen offsuit in the big blind. So this is an easy jam. I only have 6 blinds. I go all in for 18.5. Under the gun 1 folds at least, so now we're only heads up against the button, who obviously tosses in the remaining 8K. Not great news. I'm up against ace king. Gotta find a queen. The run out does not have a queen on it. I say good game, and we're out of another tournament. Anyways, good luck at the tables, you guys. Like I said, I'm feeling really energized about poker right now, and when I feel that way, I really just like to capitalize on it and play as much poker as I possibly can. So I'm gonna race home and go jump online and try to play some online tournaments. By the time you see this, I will probably be in Florida for the WPT at the Hard Rock. So if you guys are anywhere around there, you want to come say hi, please introduce yourself. It's always fun when those of you guys who watch the channel come up to me in person and we get to chat and meet each other. That's always really fun for me. Hopefully we can bank a big score, whether online or live in the near future, but I'll keep you guys posted as always. If you stuck around this far, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It keeps me fired up, motivated to make these videos for you guys. And until next time, good luck in whatever you are playing this week. Bye guys, see ya.